Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm going to be continuing with more of the conversation I recently had with Mary McDonough. So please welcome back, Mary. And there's always that confusion to people because in The Homecoming, Ben was older than Erin.
Right.
And then a few seasons into the Waltons, all of a sudden it flipped. And did Eric tell you that story?
Well, I think it's because I got taller.
Well, it could be, but they actually came to Eric, he said, and said that they were thinking about flipping that maybe because you'd gotten taller. And
I don't look older than Eric, but I was definitely taller. So maybe that was it, right?
Yeah. And he said Ellen advised him that the longer he could play younger, the better. He said there would be better storylines and stuff.
Right.
So
Ellen, always thinking about it as a script girl, right? Like as a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are.
Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah. And I guess I became older, but you're still the oldest sister. So yeah. I mean, sometimes people will comment on my page and say like, oh, and I can't believe that you still know each other and you still hang out. And that's so cool. And I have to agree. I think it's so totally cool. Mm-hmm. And, because I love you so much. And I feel like, oh, we are so lucky. We are so lucky.
I know. I wish we were closer geographically so we could physically hang out more. But when we have, you and I also, which people don't necessarily know, we will start gabbing on the phone and it'll be like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, and you're like, oh, I just drove up to my place. I got to get out of the car now. Or we had during COVID, we had a couple of like little Zoom cocktail parties.
We did
with our
spouses even. Yeah. That was really fun. Yeah. It's just staying connected. And I've done so many other shows where the people who are the stars of them don't like each other. Mm. And I always thought that was so strange.
Yeah. There are shows that are. I know that like the Happy Days guys are tight.
Yeah.
And they've been, doing a lot of stuff together and,
Yeah.
So there definitely are casts where people did, and have stayed very close. I think, the kids, the Sound of Music kids have, mm-hmm. Still feel that bond. And so it's nice when you hear, and I don't know if it's, the younger thing, because in both cases, those were groups that were younger when they got together. So maybe that works differently, but
I think so too. I think that's true, because when you're already a teenager, or when you're playing a teenager and you're in your 20s, you're already kind of more developed. But we just spent so much time together with each other, even more than with our families. And I think, I think just having so many years of experience together and starting out so young. I mean, there are people who are young on other shows that didn't stay as close, but I just think that we're incredibly lucky that way.
Definitely.
Sometimes there was competition on other shows between kids. And when there's only like 2 or 3, the competition can be worse, I think. Or if one of the kids is the star of the show. And we were all kind of together. It was the 6 of us, and we were just all on the same plane in a way. We did different stuff in the show.
Yeah. I spoke with Michael McGreevy recently, and he had wonderful stories about, just because he had those wonderful connections between his father, who wrote for the show, mm-hmm. and his father and Earl Hamner had been friends since way back in radio days. Wow. In New York. And so there was just all these connections to the show. And then, of course, Michael was in The Braggart, and then he went on to write 4 episodes. Mm-hmm. And he talked about when he was pitching stuff that they'd say, well, we need a story for Jason, or we need a story for Jim Bob or something. And so I love that they seem to be so attentive and wanting to work with the growth of each of the characters and the storylines for each of us as we grew up, and give people a chance to be featured. So everybody had 2 or 3 episodes that really featured their character in a season. And not all shows will care
do
about
that. Yeah. Or they stick them in some kind of a pigeonhole and make them keep doing that over and over again. And we got to grow. And as our own growth happened and we changed and grew as people, they would sort of adapt to us, I felt.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was really smart of the writers and producers and how it went.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, I think that having been younger together is definitely something that really just bonded us. And here's the thing. I mean, we ate lunch together every day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I first did an episode of something, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see where everybody's having lunch together. No one had lunch together. Everybody ran into their cars and ran. And I thought, oh, bummer. They don't have lunch together. That's a drag. And then I thought, oh, that's really sad.
I mean, I think that we always, were willing to be a group and to share things. And
I think you're right.
I don't think we were cliquey within the cast. It might be, I might gravitate to, and I didn't with you until you were sort of a bit more of a teenager.
That's right. Because I looked up to you and wanted to follow you everywhere because you were so cool. And in the homecoming, and then you were like, you had snow fights with the boys and you were like so hip and so cool. And I was just a kind of a geek and I was too young and you and John and Eric had this bond and you were like doing teenager things. And I did not fit in that at all. I was still too young, but I was also too old to play with Cammie and David. So it was the middle child thing again. And I always felt like, oh, I don't fit in anywhere, right? And like, because I can't play with them because they're older. And then I remember one time, and Cammie says she doesn't remember it at all. I remember one time David telling me, like, we're going over here. They were going to the B-52 Rocks.
Okay.
And I was like following them. And they're like, no, we're going to hide from you. You're too old to play with us. And I was like, Cammie, go away. And so it's funny how, and then when I got older, I got to hang with you. So then I was really cool because I got to have you as my big sister and pal and companion.
I feel like I pushed you in some ways. I think Eric and I both did, because just the teenage thing, that the way in which we thought we were so much more worldly at 13, 14, 15, and you still had these like, I guess these viewpoints and things that we had perhaps grown through to sort of have more of assert our own individuality and our own, when you hit that rebellious thing where you just don't believe, where you kind of want to forge your own path. And so I remember kind of us poking at you, like wanting you to sort of form your own opinions and question things more. And it's like, kind of, come on, Mary, Yeah, no, that took me a very long time because I was raised in a place where you didn't have your own opinions. You only did what they told you to do. And, that's why it worked so well for producers and directors, because I would just do whatever everybody said. And it took me so long. It was part of what my first book is about. Like, who am I? What is my voice? What do I care about? And I had no idea because I was Mary Erin and I had no idea or even how to, form my own opinions. And there was no critical thinking in my family. that was allowed. And I remember when I went to college, I was like, wait a minute, what? People are just arguing with each other and what? It was very eye-opening to me, but it's still something that I feel took me a really long time to come up with my own opinions and do what I wanted to do. So, so that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I was kind of on the other spectrum at times of just assuming that all of my opinions were correct, which I outgrew that phase too. But that it was okay to admit you were wrong and to be wrong and to look at things and go, well, okay, here's some other information, and I can look at that and go, wow, okay, so that was a misjudgment. And if I spend too much time looking back at things, then I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Regret's not a good one, but it's hard not to do it.
It's not.
Yeah. But I think the cool thing about us too is that, or all of us, is that as much as because we come from, and because we've been writing about it lately, but how different we all are in our backgrounds and where we came from. And I think that when all of the age differences and all of the learning and growing, I don't think we ever completely dissed someone where we just didn't have a relationship with them.
No,
that just never happened.
We were never, there was,
no.
And I think that was probably great for all of us in many ways, that we were in an environment where we didn't have any of that, like on the set. That didn't exist. None of us got bullied. None of us bullied each other, and we didn't get it from any outside source there either.
Yeah.
So
I think it's probably why we all turned out kind of okay, in a way. And I just feel like there's so much of that bullying, and we just kind of bonded together too. Yeah. When there were circumstances where things got tough, or directors challenged us, we didn't really have a voice, but we could stick together and kind of have a voice and say, no, that's not where I sit, but we kind of stuck together in it too. So as we were the kids. Yeah, it was. And pretty soon we were the kids and everybody else was gone. So we were the adults. Yeah. But we always were really close, which is really lucky.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think there was always a sense of protectiveness amongst ourselves as that group, because we know we were the very low on the food chain. And so that was sort of a safety place, to have our group. Yeah.
Well, I'm the only person who didn't have a birthday while we were filming. So that was always like a big thing for me, those special cakes from Webby's that you guys always got. Mm-hmm. So I was always jealous of everybody who got a birthday cake. And my birthday was on hiatus. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted a Webby's birthday cake for my birthday. And my mom, one year when I was older, finally got me one. She was like, yeah. So I got a Webby's birthday cake. But they were on the set, right? They would always come in and the lights would go down and the candles would be there. And the cakes were really fantastic. I just loved, that's my favorite kind of cake to this day, the Webby's birthday cake. But I always loved when all of you had birthdays because we got to have that cake.
I think they always had one for me and John because our birthdays were
are
week
close.
Apart. I want my own. I know how people feel. Yes. It's like birthday is right near Christmas. It's like, I don't get my own.
My brother and our birthdays are a week apart. Mm. And my mother always had the same cake for us. And I remember he had a birthday. I think he was turned 30. And he finally said, I am not doing my birthday with you. We are not doing anything together. But it took that long. Mm. And so he had his own party with his own cake and what he wanted to have. So, yeah. Birthdays on the set were pretty special, I think.
Thank you for joining me for this segment with Mary. If you enjoy these, please do hit like and subscribe. I'll see you next time for more behind the scenes of the Waltons, more of your questions in an Ask Judy, and more special guests. Thanks for watching.